can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get to today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell. We're getting really close to 100K subscribers, so hook a brother up. Help me out. And look, so let me get that silver plaque. We put it up somewhere around here, looking real nice. I'd really appreciate that. Also, if you enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button because, believe it or not, it really helps the channel out, like, tremendously. All right, today's video, we're gonna be talking about, with full spoilers, X-Men #6, written by Jed MacKay, with pencils by Neto Diaz, inks by Sean Parsons, colors by Marte Gracia and Fer Cifuentes Suho, and letters by Clayton Cowles. This issue is basically spending its opening moments trying to get you caught up to speed with the events that took place over the course of the past 5 issues, which is the first official story arc of the adjectiveless X-Men in the new X-Men from the Ashes era. Basically reintroducing you to some of the characters, like case in point, the Santa Marco 6, which were the 6 adults who suddenly developed mutant powers out of nowhere, not naturally born with them the way other mutants are. And while we don't really have the identities of those characters, they're brought up quite a bit. And I think this may be the first time we hear them referred to as the Santa Marco 6. I could be incorrect here, but the name gets thrown around a lot this issue, for repetition's sake, to get you used to calling them that. But we also see characters Ben Liu and Jennifer Starkey, with Ben Liu being a reality warper and Jennifer Starkey seemingly having abilities tied to aquatic life. She has a look that lets you know that she is an aquatic style character, very likely has some control over water or some kind of like a fish-like biology, somewhere along those lines. But point of the matter is, at a point, Zorn refers to them as potentially being Homo sapiens superior, Nova, considering that these were mutants who were, created with the aid of Cassandra Nova. And I'm gonna go ahead right now, I'm gonna shut this down about as quick as Magneto does. Magneto basically shuts the whole thing down, saying that they're mutants, period. Full stop, end of story. Doesn't matter their origin, where they come from. And I think that's actually a good way to look at it. I don't think we should be making distinctions, because I'm gonna be honest with you, we tried this before, and it was with the Neos. Yeah, you don't remember them either. Okay, cool, bet. Anyway, that's the reason why I think Jed MacKay tackled it this way, because no one is checking for the Neos. I actually remember there were a few people who tried to convince me in the past that when the whole story arc with Kate Pryde was going on, where they couldn't resurrect her after her death at the hands of Sebastian Shaw, everybody was trying to say, oh, it's because she's a Neo, because this was something that was kind of hinted at, like, in the past. But I was like, dude, nobody's checking for that shit. Nobody's checking for it, and guess what? Neither was Marvel. Marvel was not checking for it. It was just a simple quirk of her powers, as I had always said up to that point. But after that is that Beast is trying to tackle what is going on that's creating these characters like Ben Liu and Jennifer Starkey, and he's doing it behind the 8 ball, because one thing we got to remember, and I actually appreciate that Jed MacKay brings this up in this issue, is that while yes, this is Beast, and Beast is one of the 4 most leading geneticists and biologists and just scientists in general, dude's incredibly smart, and we take a lot of that for granted. But here's the thing, this ain't that same Beast. This is Defenders Beast, the same Beast that was on the Defenders and the Avengers back during the 80s. This is not X-Force Beast, who had been here this whole time. That was a Beast who was far more intelligent than this version of Beast, which is saying a lot, considering this Beast was smarter than everybody else for the most part that he was usually in the room with. He is not that same Beast anymore. Just because they are the same person, they didn't have the same experiences, and that Beast had almost half of a lifetime to build upon the intelligence that he possessed. This version of Beast does not have that luxury. And I think what's happening here, I don't know if Jed is setting this up, but I feel like there is a plot thread being hinted at, maybe teased at, that they're going to go in a direction where maybe Beast tries to get that intelligence and maybe something worse happens as a result of it. But the thing is that what Beast is trying to figure out, he's trying to figure out the ties between the Santa Marco Six, which are part of the Fourth School, and how they came into being. And it basically, it all kind of comes down to, yes, Fourth School and 3K, the villainous organization that was hinted at and teased at in Jed's X-Men #1. Yes, they're working together, or were working together. It seems like that partnership may be getting dissolved. But the thing is, he's trying to figure all this out, and he just doesn't have the intelligence necessary to really dig into it the way that X-Force Beast would have. Now, with that said, he also is trying to figure out what's wrong with Magneto. And this is something I've kind of talked about off and on since this new X-Men series relaunched, is that we don't know what's up with Magneto. Like, why is he always sitting down in a chair? I don't think we've seen him walk anywhere. Like, he seems to be older, more frail. If we go back and look at some of the concept art that was shown at San Diego Con last year, we saw that he just looked withered and wizened. And we don't know the reason why. All we know is something's wrong with him, and Beast mentions curing him. We don't know what that means. And it's even implied that he's trying to cure all of themselves, like something was released that, you know, would harm them in some way. And once again, they've yet to address this on any level. I feel like it's something we're gonna get answers, I think, in this arc, but I think it's just gonna take maybe 2 or 3 more issues to get there. I don't think it, honestly, personally, I think we should probably know within the next 2, but you know, you never know. For those that are wondering what this could be, I can tell you right now, I have no idea, because the last time we saw Magneto before the X-Men from the Ashes era, Magneto was fine. Just to give you a little bit of history, because I know this is always someone's first video. You may not have kept up with the Krakoa era stuff, but I'm here to tell you that about roughly around 2023, there was a little story arc called Judgment Day. And during that story arc, about roughly the summer of 2023, the story arc Judgment Day involved Magneto getting his heart ripped out by the Eternal Uranos. And he managed to keep himself alive using his own power, but ultimately, once the deed was done and they had defeated both Uranos and the Progenitor Celestial, Magneto had succumbed to his mortal wound. And he died, and he stayed dead until summer of this year, when the resurrection of Magneto's story arc had kicked off. Magneto went to hell, more or less. He died, he stayed in the afterlife for about a calendar year in real life, and when he came back, he was crawling through hell and trying to make peace with the lives he had taken, the high death toll he has accrued in his lifetime, but also at the same time accepting that he had saved a lot of lives as well. Maybe, and it's actually very heavily implied, more lives than he actually took. So there's that. And with the help of Storm, he was able to crawl his way out of the afterlife. And once he had done so, he came back in a body that was not his normal, like, not like to say that he was always been depicted as being super old or anything, but he was in a body that was very obviously a younger man's body. And he seemed fine, even at the point where the X-Men waved goodbye to Krakoa as it faded off to the cosmos forever. He seemed fine. He is not fine here. And what it is exactly that's affecting him, that's caused him to age so rapidly, yeah, we just don't know. Maybe it's why Cyclops looks so young. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things that, yeah, we're just gonna have to play it by ear and wait and see. There've been no, to my understanding, no allusions or teases as to exactly what it is. Jed's just gonna have to tell us. Before we go any further, I do want to bring up real quick, we are gonna be having Memphis Comics Expo on the 26th and 27th this week. So just wanted to put it out here. I'm not gonna have like a booth or anything, but I will be walking around the con here in Memphis. So you might see me, you know, out there. If you do, you know, hey, walk up, say hi. I don't really have anything else. I'm not gonna have like a table or a booth or anything. I'm not making any, like, you know, like organized appearance or anything like that. I'm just putting the word out because I know a lot of times people forget or don't know that I live in Memphis. If you're gonna be in Memphis, or you already live in Memphis and you're gonna be going to the con, there's a pretty high chance you might bump into me. So there you go. Just listen out for the guy who laughs too loud or talks too loud or whatever. I'm not difficult to find. But anyway, back to the video. Now, that said, there's also another thing that takes place in this issue that I thought was of note. There's a new character that has been introduced, a young girl by the name of Piper Cobb, a young mutant who's hanging out outside the factory, the base, the new base of operations. It used to be a Sentinel factory of Orcus's. Yes, she is sitting outside there with her mother protesting mutants. And suddenly we see her throw up the Midnight M on the slick, and Temper catches wind of it. And for those that don't know, if you've not been keeping up, like I said earlier, it's always someone's first video. Maybe you don't know, you haven't kept up with any of this stuff since it started, just a scant couple of months, 3-4 months ago or whatever. But basically what happened was the Midnight M is a thing that was introduced by Gail Simone over on the Uncanny X-Men side of things. And you throw the Midnight M is basically a way to quietly let other mutants know that either A, you are a mutant, or B, you are in some sort of situation or distress because you're a mutant, like maybe someone's trying to attack you or they're antagonizing you, or another mutant might show it to another mutant to show that, hey, I'm an ally, I'm a mutant as well, I am here for you in case you need help, for whatever reason. Temper sees this, and as anyone that sees that symbol, which by the way is based on a very real world thing, a universal sign that a person who is in a current situation suffering from domestic violence could put up, that maybe another person would see and say, hey, let me step into the situation and maybe try and help this person out. Going from there, what I thought was of real interest here is that Temper and Magic are debating about whether or not they should step in, because the thing is here is that this is a child. This isn't like an adult. This isn't a teenager that's on the verge of becoming 18 and is practically a legal adult that, if they left home or whatever, their parents probably would either, I won't say they won't care, but like it's gonna be like, okay, well, who knows? But the point here is that she is a young child, and if the X-Men show up and just snatch her out of her home, regardless of whether she's actually begging for help or not, the ONE, which is the organization that is kind of long plagued the X-Men but are now back and are all intents and purposes overseeing the X-Men in the factory, trying to make sure they don't get out of line. And the ONE would have every excuse in the world to actually attack the X-Men. Right now, they don't have any cause to attack the X-Men. Right now, their mission is to try and keep the X-Men in line, to try to keep them from running roughshod across the world as they believe the X-Men would do. But no, they can't do anything yet. And now, they would have the opportunity to do so if Temper and Magic take this child. And spoiler alert, they do. Granted, this child is in trouble, but not the kind of trouble that they might have been expecting, and not for the very same reasons that they might have been expecting. Like, Magic and Temper have about the right way of it when they say that, oh, you're someone who has discovered that you're a mutant and you're afraid, and your mother's taking you to these anti-mutant rallies, and you're worried that she's going to hurt you, or this, that, or the other. And the girl basically says, Piper says, yeah, kind of, for the most part. Yes, she is a mutant. We don't see her display any mutant powers, and there's even kind of a little thing that Magic throws out there, worrying that maybe this is a trap of some sort, that this girl is trying to trick them into showing up. But at the end of the day, what's happening here is that this girl is afraid for herself, but not afraid for herself because of her mother. She doesn't think her mother's a bad person. Like, she loves her mother. She just recognizes her mother has been indoctrinated. She's been radicalized by the Truth Seekers, something that we saw happening in the NYX series. This group of people who run around spreading propaganda about mutants, painting them as being villainous, evil, vile people. And basically, just like how, and I know, Ryan, you're watching this, just like how your parents or your grandparents, your uncles or whoever, just like how they probably sit up all day watching Fox News. Yes, I know, Ryan, it's a very sad thing. I am empathetic to this. I'm very empathetic, but just know, yes, Ryan, I know, yes, your parents or grandparents, they're probably watching Fox News 24/7. They're probably on Facebook all day, you seeing all the conspiracy theories thrown out there that have no basis for truth or reality for that matter. But yes, they're caught up. They're caught up. They've been radicalized by it. The same people who told you don't believe everything you see on TV or on the internet, they're now themselves believing everything they see on TV and on the internet. And that's what Piper is worried about. She's worried that, yes, she thinks her mother's a good person. She's just caught up. To the point where her mother's even trying to get her to indoctrinate her own friends at school, which I think is actually an even more dangerous thing to do. Like, that's how racist and bigots propagate themselves. They spread their hateful rhetoric down to the next generation. It's kind of what her mother is doing, trying to get her friends to come to these anti-mutant protests. Because really, when you see it, like, these people, they're not a lot of them. It's like less than a dozen people protesting outside the factory. That's nothing. But you get the kids involved, and it just builds those ranks. So yeah, it's a sad thing to see. But the thing I think she's even more worried about is the fact that she's more worried that her mother won't love her anymore because of how much she's been bought in. But I don't know, and I don't know where Jed's going with this, but I actually could easily see this being one of those things where maybe it does come out that Piper is a mutant to her mother. She comes out and says, "Hey, I'm a mutant. This is what's what." I could easily see it going the way that maybe Piper doesn't expect. Maybe Piper thinks that her mother will hate her, but maybe this will open her mother's eyes to the fact that this doesn't change her. This doesn't make her a different person. She's a mutant. She's not a bad person. Maybe that could be the way you go with it. But whichever way it goes, Piper does leave with temper and magic and goes back to the factory. But what I thought was interesting here, Piper mentions that the Sentinel that has been looming over the little town in Alaska, it's something that wasn't just there just because. I mean, yes, there was a Sentinel factory there. However, this Sentinel was looking for her. Now, she also uses a very specific phrase when she refers to this mutant. She refers to it as a wild sentinel. Now, that's a very specific term that evokes a lot of emotions in a lot of X-Men fans because many of us associate wild sentinels with the Genosian massacre that was led by Cassandra Nova. And for those who maybe aren't as well read on the comics, pour one out for my X-Men 97 fans out there. It was a wild sentinel that was involved in that attack on Genosha in that series in episode 5. Remember it. We also have to look at the fact that, what is a wild sentinel? Wild sentinel is basically a sentinel with a certain protocol that mandates that they rebuild themselves with whatever's nearby. And considering that, we know that this was very much the same town where I think this was like Avengers number 12, 13, maybe 14, where the Avengers had attacked that very same Sentinel factory, where all the Sentinels just running roughshod, towards the end of the Krakoan era. We know that a lot of those got destroyed, and we never really got to see much of the aftermath, from that. But we just knew that the X-Men came in, swooped in, took over the factory, called it their base. At the same time, though, I wonder, because this Sentinel is a bit larger than even some of the normal Stark Tech Sentinels. Wonder if this wild Sentinel is built from all those other parts. And it just stands there, doesn't do anything, but I mean, it's looming over the city. And Scott even said himself, it's there as a reminder for what they did, what the people of this town, even though, maybe they aren't anti-mutant, but they definitely were comfortable with a Sentinel factory in their midst. And he's leaving it there as a reminder. This Sentinel being there, I think we're going to finally get a few more answers as to how all this came to be. Probably see a little bit more of Cassandra Nova's involvement. She's, being name dropped more and more and more. And even to a point where, Psylocke even, kind of alludes to some of the things that I talked about in my previous video for X-Men number 5, the fact that she was last seen, left billions of years in the past. How is she here now? And once again, we don't get that answer, but I have a suspicion. That we're gonna get some answers here really soon. But yeah, so far, I mean, yeah, this was fantastic. I like it. I like that it's low key. It's is it as bombastic as House of X, especially House of X. I think House of X, issue number 2, I think spoiled a lot of people. I think it spoiled a lot of people. A lot of people are really like just not okay with the storytelling that is surrounding the House of X era. And I'm gonna tell you something, this is gonna be a hard truth. I think a lot of people need to hear this shit. A lot of people act like the House of X era was like this paragon of storytelling. It really wasn't. Like, I think people just really liked that House of X kickoff, because I can't tell you, a lot of the same people I'm seeing that are, you know, proclaiming that, you know, this new era of X-Men is, you know, mid or trash or terrible. I'll be honest with you, I don't really see any difference in the elevation of storytelling here versus what I read during the House of X era. Yeah, is it as good as House of X, like the actual like House of X cross, you know, the, you know, House of X Powers of 10? No. What is? Compared to the just regular week-to-week issues that were coming out, this is on par, and in some cases, I think a little bit better. I think the difference is we're just, a lot of people are just way still too close. The wounds are still fresh. But yeah, I think honestly, I just think it's funny. Every week there's a new X-Men title that comes out, I'm just like, all right, we're gonna end up relitigating this. We're gonna end up relitigating this. And it's the same thing I said before. I actually said this back when and I don't remember what videos, because I've done hundreds of videos about the Krakoan era. So obviously I read a lot of it. I read just about every, I would actually dare say, yeah, with the exception maybe like a couple of titles, stuff that was like barely even tangentially connected, I read pretty much every title in the Krakoan era. If anyone would have any right to say what I'm about to say, it would be me. But yes, I remember saying this, that people were going to, like, because people, don't forget, people were actually shitting on the Krakoan era when it started, even during House of X. I remember telling people this, I said, just watch. Y'all are shitting on it now, but when it goes away and y'all got to go back to X-Men like being business as usual, y'all are gonna be crying for the Krakoan era, and it's happening right now. So I think it's funny. I think it's funny.